We're really, really excited to host you today, Flavio. Let's start with a quick introduction. As we all know, we have a very, very special speaker amongst us tonight. Flavio is an experienced management consultant and a serial entrepreneur. He has worked as a management consultant at Arthur D. Little and McKinsey and Company. He's also founded 5 businesses, one of which is the Case Interview Academy, successful case interview prep coaching company that has published one of the most downloaded apps for case training. Apart from this, Flavio has also done an interesting research. He's been studying profiles of over 3,000 MDB consultants, drawing some certain interesting inferences from their backgrounds. So I'm personally very, very intrigued about this one, Flavio. We'd really love to hear more around this in connection with our case solving frameworks and consulting. So with that said, let's get started and over to you.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah. My internet was a little bit shaky, but thank you so much for the kind introduction, and I'm happy to answer all your questions. So today I prepared a small presentation to cover a little bit of everything. But I was hoping that you will bring me also some questions that you can share in the chat anytime during this presentation, right? So please share your questions freely, and I'll try to take all of them. Now, let's go and start. So introduction to consulting, as you know, it's a very interesting profession, very exciting, very hyped, but at the same time, very tough because everything has 2 sides. Everything is a balance. And if it was like only perfect and like the only advantages, then we would not, of course, be in an equilibrium here, right? So everybody would want to be a consultant and everybody would be a consultant. So a little bit about me already has been said, right? So I'm Brazilian. I live in Germany, and I have experience in consulting. It's my passion to help and coach people. And the thing I've been building lately, it's Hybridge. Maybe you heard about it. Maybe you saw us on the internet, or any channels. It's a program that we put together with 3 modules for helping you to take off in consulting, right? We have a case interview module fully prepared to make you think and speak better, speak like a consultant, full work module to learn the tricks and of the trade, how to be a great consultant, and of course, how to be a great leader. And that's what we do. We are over 50 ex-McKinsey, Bain, BCG consultants, fully focused. Now we're outside consulting, so we're fully focused on making others successful, right? So you can check out how we perform, what people say about us in our reviews. And I just wanted to make one invitation. You have the June 18th, day 0 of the bootcamp is free of charge. So you can register through our website and come for a full day of content for free. And then you can decide whether you're going to stay in the bootcamp and apply properly. Now let's buckle up. There's a lot to cover as always. And as I said, please feel free to send me questions in the chat. Now, how old do you think the management consulting profession is? How old is this profession? Any ideas? Share in the chat a few thoughts. Give me a number. You thinking, Googling? No Googling. More than a century. 50 to 60, 500, wow, 20 centuries, 50, okay, 100, 150, 300, as old as business? Not really. Since kingship, yes, well, if you're talking about general advisory, yes. advisory, yes, but management consulting, something different and something that formally started with Arthur D. Little about 130 or 40 or 140 years ago, right? And since then, the industry has grown a lot, and we've seen several famous brands, right, starting in the 20th century, as you can see here, big names such as McKinsey, Kearney, BCG, Bain, LEK, etc. And fun fact, many of those consulting firms were founded by ex-consultants by other firms. So you can see here that someone from Arthur D. Little founded BCG, someone from BCG founded Bain, and some people from Bain founded LEK, for instance, right? So because consultants are very entrepreneurial and they always try to create some new things and end up creating their own firms. And the landscape is very diverse. Today we have tier 1 MBB firms, the classic strategy houses, where the projects are the most expensive ones and it's most selective companies to work for. They also do a lot of operations implementation work and digital work as well. Other international strategy firms, they don't have the same footprint as the so-called MBB, but they also very selective and strong in different geographies and industries. The boutiques, generally founded by ex-consultants from the other firms from previous tiers, and they are small, sometimes focused on a certain area, and sometimes they compete head to head with other large scale companies. And it's where you work closer with senior people because the projects, like, you're closer to the partners, etc. So the companies don't have as much scale and resources. On the other hand, you work closely to the seniors. And the big four, well, of course, the famous auditing and accounting companies that have also their own branches of consulting, management consulting, right? And here I already mentioned a little bit the types of consulting there are. So when we talk about management, we can talk about strategy consulting, which is designing the plan, right? Being the architect, analyzing the markets, the companies, making choices. Then implementation is the engineering part, so building what the strategy was able to come up with and ensuring everything is set up and working. Operations, which is essentially running the company more efficiently, figuring out how to use resources more efficiently, saving time, saving money. And we have HR, financial, and tax consulting as well as other. And the types of clients that consulting firms serve, well, they are not only large companies, they're also small companies sometimes, often investors, governments, and nonprofits. Right? Consulting firms, they serve nonprofits as well, often as pro bono to develop their team, their consultant skills, as well as for branding. Now, one thing that firms have in common is strong values. And if you look on the website of McKinsey, Bain, BCG, and other companies, you'll see that these values, they come down to 4 core things. Attraction of the best talent, because that's their business model, right? They sell brains. Value creation for clients, otherwise they would not exist. Collaboration, so co-creation. Oftentimes it's not a consultant coming and telling you what to do. It's often working together to figure out the best solution with the client. And ethical standards and confidentiality, because in consulting, you will be exposed to the company's secrets, and consultants, they serve competitors as well. So there has to be extreme high standards and ethical standards and confidentiality for this profession to even work. Now, in terms of the career progression, here are some numbers for the US, right? So you have to adapt to the reality of each country, but often it's a very predictable progression, what we call also the up or out. Either you get promoted or you are asked to leave the consulting firm. You can join as an intern or junior consultant. You stay there for 2-3 years. Then you might go to an MBA or not. Maybe you join directly as a fellow associate. But senior consultants or associates, they usually post MBAs, or people who are very experienced in the industry. They have like 4 to 6 years of industry experience. and they were hired from a firm. Then you become a manager. After that, a principal, and you start overseeing more projects. It's also called junior partner sometimes. A partner is a big day. So you can become partner after perhaps 10 years working for a firm, and then you can become a senior partner director and call the shots, right? So it's the where compensation really skyrockets. Okay. As I said, please share in the chat any questions you might have. And finally, to close this chapter, consulting has lots of exciting exit opportunities. For instance, consultants are in high demand in other companies, in government, in startups, etc. Right. So a few big names you've probably heard of: Sundar Pichai, so ex-McKinsey and CEO of Google. We also have this guy here, John Danaher, ex-Bain, CEO of eBay and Nike. John Legend, some surprised faces because nobody expects the musician to start in consulting, but that's what happened. Jane Fraser, ex-McKinsey, CEO of Citi. Indra Nooyi, well, you probably heard of her, ex-CEO of Pepsi and ex-BCG. Susan Wojcicki, CEO of YouTube and ex-Bain, and many others, right? So we have other famous people who were consultants and made it to leadership positions, right? So McKinsey calls itself this leader factory or CEO factory because so many people end up going to companies and after a few years they are leading them, or they start their own. So those are some unicorns founded by ex-MBB consultants. Probably you heard a few of those names. I can tell from my experience, it is much easier to talk to investors if you have a big consulting brand on your CV because they already tick the box of like, okay, this guy's smart and I want to evaluate the other dimensions. Of course, it doesn't necessarily open all the doors, but they already are open to talk to you, right? To hear what you have to say and so on. And this is, for me, a great advantage. All right, let's take a look at these questions. Yeah, delivery. So Bharat, problem solving is easier when broken into smaller pieces, correct. Agile is a similar framework. Is it the future to all problems? How can microdata be useful for this method? Interesting. Yeah, interesting question. I think, yeah, Agile is about shipping small products, small pieces that already work, instead of building up a lot of work and expectations and risk before you actually can test something and try something and bring value to your customer, right? And problem solving is about structuring a complex thing, breaking things down in different parts and pieces so that you can pinpoint where it's coming from, what the problem is coming from, or you can have a solution mapped out. So all solutions and you can choose one. So there is a similarity, but also a difference. And now, is it the future of all problems? Probably. Together, yes. I would say that's what we figured out. It's better to break things down and tackle in complexity in small chunks. And it's also probably better to ship small products, deliverables, right? So, and micro data, that's a completely different thing. I think if you have big data sets, it's not necessarily, it can be structured and broken down into hypotheses so that you can solve it, right? So, and yeah, that's what I think. Sampad, what are the main things we need to follow for consulting as a career? I'll talk about that I will talk about resume a little bit. Riti Mukta, along with having a grip on solving case studies, what are the other skill sets and certifications that are considered useful to get a consultant? No certifications, but other skill sets, yes, and I'll address that. Consulting is a career that values your capacity to solve novel new problems, not necessarily where your past experience will be useful. So they only use experience to measure your capacity to solve new problems. It doesn't matter like, oh, I worked in this and this and this, I did that and that. Like, it doesn't really matter what you already did, but more what you're capable of doing. And that's why we test you with a case. That's where the case interview comes in. Oh, lots of questions. So I will answer one more and then I'll proceed and I'll try to take more of them later. If you were to choose, so Srijita, if you were to choose between the big three firms, how should one choose where to go? What significant difference one would offer on the other? First, get the offers. I always tell people this. Don't start thinking too much about which one. They're all fabulous, all marvelous, difficult to enter, very selective. Before deciding, go for the process. I recommend to apply to all of them because you have to diversify your chances. And then in the process, you're going to meet people, you're going to see who you have more fit with and so on. And in the end, if you have double offer or triple offer, then you can start thinking about choosing. Don't get busy with choosing before getting the offers, right? So you like get the options first. But all three big three are very, very strong and very similar in many ways. All right. I'll take some more questions in a bit, but first let me ask you something. What are, for this group, personally, what are the pros and the cons of the consulting career? Tell me what you think. Akash, you want to speak?
Hey, hi, Flavio. Uh,
Yeah,
for
hello. Hi.
consulting, the biggest pro I always feel is uh, it expands your horizon. It gives you so many opportunities to travel around the world, around the every corner of the state. You have
Mhm.
so many, you find so many culture, different languages, different people with having different set of. So that geography coverage, it always expands your horizon and improves your
Mhm.
decision making. And if I talk about the one con, uh, we all know that everybody knows consulting as a career, it's very demanding. The work hours and the work life balance is not very good. Everybody talks about that. So I, even talking about people who are working in MBB, they also feel that 14 16 hours is very normal for us to work.
Um,
So I feel
yeah.
that maybe that balance of work life and the personal life, it's something which I feel maybe it would be a con of the consulting career.
Yeah, absolutely. Akash, thank you for sharing, and I
Thanks,
completely
Flavio.
agree with what you said. Let's hear from Sanjana as well.
Hi, Flavio. I think I have been into consulting for some time, and I feel that the biggest pro of being in consulting is the work is not repetitive. For me, each project was different. What was similar was that acumen of problem solving. I like to solve problems. I like to solve problems of clients, work with them, do different things each time. Though I was into a particular industry, but still, the work is very different. The project is different every time. The major con is the work-life balance. But I
Mhm.
think when you like your work, we can keep that backside. Those are my
Yeah,
thoughts.
very, very good. Thank you so much for sharing, Sanjana, and that's absolutely true as well. Thank you guys for the contributions, and I see more hands and also comments here. Um, I see here Surab, Jitu also sharing. Please share anything else in the chat. Um, well, as I said in the beginning, right? It's a balance, and everything is in equilibrium in the world. 1 second, just have to plug in my computer. Yeah, okay. So everything is in equilibrium in the world, and of course, you put a lot of value on one side of the balance. Probably there's some cost and some investment you have to make on the other side of the balance too. So here is my complete view of the pros and cons of consulting. As mentioned by Sanjana, do interesting, challenging, and diverse work. So no project is the same. Work is always changing, and it's great for people who like to learn. You can deliver impact. You can really deliver important impact and help people. Okay, so help governments, help companies, help executives. You work with passionate and smart people in consulting because they are selected for that. You get early exposure to senior leaders and enjoy rapid and predictable career progression. People get very impatient in their companies because they don't know what's the next level. They don't know how long they're going to be there. Nobody can promise how much time it will get to promote you. While in consulting, if you stay there, if you don't get laid off, of course, you know when you're going to be where. how much money you're going to be making. You don't know what type of work you're going to be doing because it's going to be changing a lot, but you at least have a predictable career. You earn a high salary compared to the industry. I think it starts at like 20 to 40% higher than your peers to go to the industry, but this difference increases a lot over time. And of course, if you get to partnership, you will be making several, like a few times more than another person who was in the industry for 10 years. You travel all over the world and you stay at great hotels. I myself had the opportunity to work in Brazil and in Australia when I was at McKinsey, not without my own effort of trying to get a project there, but the company, the firm enabled me to do it. And you get sponsored for the MBA in several occasions, not in all companies, not in all contexts, it depends, and it's a big check, right? So if you go to an international B school, you will spend $120,000 just for tuition, and it's kind of unpayable if you're not already very rich. So it helps a lot being sponsored. Now the cons, you have a lot of work to get done, right? A lot. The expectations are high, and sometimes it's shocking because you feel like you have work for 2 people on your plate, and because the teams are very small in consulting, and you have to get things done, and naturally you'll be under pressure to deliver, and you will sometimes spend time away from home because of travel, right? So travel is a double-edged sword, and navigating a project without knowing what's ahead. Also, like, you have diverse work at the same time. It's not that predictable. Sometimes clients change their minds, or the leadership of the project changes, and you have to stop doing something, do something else. You have to have this flexibility. And you meet clients who don't like consultants too. Not everyone likes external professionals to come and first potentially look at your work critically, to audit what you've been doing, potentially uncover mistakes that you've made, telling you how to do your job better or differently, or in their perspective, how they see it, without having experience. So for sure, you will meet mostly clients who like consultants and they are there to help and have a good, healthy relationship, sometimes not. Okay. Now, the main point, which is the high workload, it doesn't mean that you're going to be like crunched every hour of the day and super stressful. No, it means that the days are long. Okay, if you maintain a certain rhythm and so on, it doesn't mean that you are under stress all the time, but the days are long and things have to get done. But having a lot to do is actually a potential blessing in disguise, because a high workload is what will make you more productive. It's impossible for you to learn really how to be productive without having pressure, without having a lot to get done. Because it's under pressure that you choose where to focus. You see where is value and where value isn't. You cut the bullshit. It's when you get impatient with time wasting. And it's when you have forced to prioritize. Oh, 15 things have to get done and they're all important, but what is most important? So that's why I think the main benefit of consulting, which is to make you more productive for the rest of your career, is actually the pressure and the amount of work that you are submitted to. Okay, so double-edged sword. It's the high workload that will make you more productive and yield the dividends for the rest of your career. I can tell you, before and after consulting, completely different person, and now I know what productive looks like. I know when I'm productive, when I'm not, and it helps me do a lot more. Let's take a few more questions. Oh, I have to come back a little bit. As per my understanding, in consulting, one does not get to be part of implementations in certain cases, but in such cases, what will the kind of learning be limited for consulting? No, Suraj, actually nowadays, a lot of consultants implement, like, there's no more hardly ever like pure strategy projects one after the other. I myself, I worked on turnarounds, which were implementation-based projects in McKinsey, and I learned inside the company how to get things done, how to capture and measure value. It depends on your focus. If you go to a consulting firm and only do due diligences, which is 1 month super focused desk research and understanding a market really fast, if you go one after the other, of course, you will never see implementation, but you can steer your career, right? If you're in a big enough company, you can kind of choose one particular area you like to do more. And that's the good thing about consulting. It helps you learn quickly what you like to do. And then you can focus on that for the other projects and for other profession, other jobs as well. So you really, really like the quantitative part. You really like selling ideas, or you prefer to motivate the team, etc. So it depends on your personal preferences and skills, but it's a self-discovery journey. Thank you for the question. Himanshu, how is professional life and personal life balance in consulting compared to other profiles of project manager? Look, guys, not only consultants work a lot, okay? So in finance and banking, you work a lot, and even more, in my opinion, because usually the weekends are not respected. In consulting, most companies I know respect the weekends. So things finish on Friday and restart on Monday. You have the weekend free of work. With a few exceptions, you might need to work on the weekend, but it's kind of a cultural thing in consulting. And you work a lot in startups, okay, especially now because they are now without the funding. Funding has, so the teams have to be more productive and do more with less people. So you work a lot as well. You work a lot as a founder. If needless to say, you work nonstop if you found a company. And you might work a lot in some leadership positions and in any company, right? So working a lot and working long hours is not a privilege of consultants. Actually, a lot of people are working very hard and willing to give everything they got. Akash, hey Flavio, I feel many similarities between consulting and product manager, both understanding customer, their needs, and the problem to be solved. I feel a transition possible between the two. Yes, definitely. I know a lot of consultants who transition to product manager after. Yeah, it's in the high demand, ex-consultants in product management, because they've proven that they can, they have people skills, they have analytical skills, they have communication skills, and all of that together, it's a great basis for a strong product manager. Tarun, what are the basic requirements or qualities of MBA aspirants, including their past experiences for getting into careers? I'll talk about that. Next, Bibu, do we need to have domain knowledge in particular industry to work on that area? No. Normally, you join as a generalist consultant, right? And the youngest you are, the most likely this is the case in right after graduation or around graduation. And if you are hired as a specialist or expert, right, then you're probably out of school since many years, and then you have a specific expertise, for instance, oil and gas. Okay, let me take one more. Surabi, how is it possible to develop a consulting mindset? What would some of the obvious daily practice involve? Oh, I like this question. And I think mindsets are very important because, as I said, it's about abilities, your natural abilities also, but very, very much about mindsets. And I can do it because you're being thrown very hard problems. And oh, there was some noises from behind me. Scary. Very, very go-getter attitude, and this is important because the problems will be tough. So having the mindset of a consultant is key to succeed. To believe that you can create an impact, you can make a difference. And the daily practice, well, yeah, I think you have to be working. You have to be in an internship, in a job where you are trying to create the biggest impact possible. And you'll need to develop resilience. You need to develop tenacity, resourcefulness, right? So it's kind of exposing yourself to challenges and big problems and solving them. That's how I think the best way to practice these mindsets. Okay, I'll take the rest of the questions later. Let's continue. The 3 qualities of a consultant. Tell me in the chat, like, what do you think are the 3 qualities of consultants? Of course, there are many, but we can summarize in 3. What do you think those are? Very good. Problem solving, calculative, proactiveness, problem solving, leadership, time management. Being articulate, analytical mindset, persistent, open to criticism, inquisitive, never give up, business acumen, ability to stay calm. Very good, Ayush. Decision making, dedication. Very good. I think you are all correct, and you're all in the right track here. I will condense those things into 3 main traits. And the first one you mentioned is problem solving. And problem solving, tell me if my internet is a little bit weird, but yeah, problem solving is about start with curiosity, right? Loving to solve puzzles. And McKinsey calls it intellectual caliber, right? It's a capacity to absorb information, organize information, and in a mental model that reflects reality and uses problem-solving abilities to solve challenges, difficult challenges. So that's the bread and butter of consultants, is their ability to solve problems, and therefore it's important for you to have this and develop this. It's not something you're like, oh, I'm born a great problem solver. No, you have to have some, of course, aptitudes, but after that, it's about improving and building upon your past skills. Okay, so analytical skills. The second one is drive. Very important, right? So it's not giving up, as you mentioned, because problem-solving skills alone, it's not enough to make a fine consultant. So if you're a great problem-solving bird, you're not attracted, you don't have the energy to go there and change things and face thorny problems, difficult problems organizations face, then you are not going to be a great consultant. So you're going to be a lazy genius, but you might not accomplish as much as a consultant has to or will. So drive, stamina, energy is very important. And the third one, you mentioned the leadership skills, right? And leadership here is not only about leading, right? Because you will not start in a leadership position, but it's the ability to empathize with other people, to inspire, to influence, persuade without necessarily having authority, because with authority it's very easy as they give orders. But a consultant has the ability to persuade, to build relationships, to build trust. And this is, of course, super necessary when you're actually leading a team. Okay, so people skills is very important. Without the people skills, you might be a brilliant jerk, like a Dr. House, we say, or someone who can solve something, but everybody will hate them and they will not accomplish as much as they can with a team. So yeah, very good contributions in the chat. Thank you so much. Okay, so those are the 3 qualities, and that's exactly what you want to showcase throughout your application, from your resume and cover letter to your interviews, the personal fit part, and beyond. So first, let's talk a little bit about the resume. It's the most important document you're going to submit. Okay, cover letters, they are sometimes important, but not always. Oftentimes they don't get read. Actually, I heard about 50% of the time they don't really even read your cover letter because the resume says enough, right? Either you are a fit, you are invited to the process, or you are not. And the cover letter can help in the edge cases where like, maybe, maybe not, but then the cover letter is very good, then okay, let's give them a chance. But if you, since you don't know if you're going to be an edge case or not, it's always good to submit a cover letter. Now, transcripts might be very important as well for many firms. They want to see that, because they're trying to separate, like they want to see the top 10%, top 20% in problem solving, not necessarily the top 10% student is the top 10% problem solver. However, the grades are an indication. They show something. They show drive, at least. Maybe you're driven to get the best grades, and this is already an indication. Maybe you have you are very intelligent and you can do very well in exams. But that's an indication, right? That they look at, and they sometimes look at transcripts. Resumes should be no more than 1 page. Okay, I very important to mention that, and should not be super crammed. I see a lot of resumes from India. I know that there's a template that that is used in India, but sometimes I think people try to fit in too much in a page, and it's not about that. It's not about like saying every single thing that you did or can do, but it's about highlighting the things that in 15 seconds will make you a great candidate. So you have to really pick the things that are the best achievements, things that highlight your profile, instead of trying to put, because as I said, it's not experience that is required in this job. And they don't care that you did this and this and this and a million things with relatively small impact. They want to see, how did you change the course of a certain organization, right? A consulting club or a university club, a company, and an internship. Like, how did you really stood out and became a 10% performer in that organization? That's what the resume is about. So avoid cramming in too much into this page. And here are some numbers for you to have an idea of like what is the bar like in the resume, testing games, and interview. Of course, if you multiply those probabilities, you'll get to very low probabilities, which is the case in McKinsey, Bain, BCG, and other very selective consulting firms, right? They will make like 3, sometimes 1% of hires from resume to hiring, sometimes 3%. But don't be so like desperate, like in despair, because to be honest, like if you are focused, if you really want to do it, the success rate is much higher. Because a lot of people just send their resumes like, oh yeah, maybe they like me, and they don't do any effort. They don't make any effort to actually get through it or to prepare. So if you stand out a little bit, you are a bit more focused, you want a bit more, your success rate is higher than the apparent success rate. To my point of making a 1 page and focusing on the important things, guys, this resume screeners, they will not read your full page, right? They will like skim it, and they're looking, this is a heat map, right? They are gonna look for the name of the school, for companies you worked for, your first bullets. So your first bullet must be the most impressive one always. And they look for GPAs or grades, GMAT score, something standardized helps, scholarships, right? Awards, case competitions, but hopefully finalist or winner, okay? So they're looking for quick signs that you are top 10% in your peer group, so that you should be interviewed. Is it similar to keyword screening? I don't know what that is. Hi, Flavio. I've been working consulting for the last 3 to 4 years. I have worked in government practice in 2 of the big 4 firms. Cool. Going forward, I'm looking to get management consulting. Could you tell me what areas I could focus on and work on the next year to get the target firms? Yes, I'll show you in a second. So again, they are looking in a resume for problem solving, drive, and leadership. Officially, they say that. Unofficially, they are looking for big brands, high grades, local language knowledge and English skills, and the formatting, how careful you are with your application. They will not write those things in their website, but yes, the screeners, they look into those things too, okay? Now, let's take a look at So this is not the Indian typical format. This is the Harvard format. I think it depends on where you apply and so on. But you see there is a personal information, education, work experience, extracurriculars, and skills and interest part. And let's take a look at each of the dimensions. What could they mean? And this is answering the question, what to focus on, right, in the next year to get to the firms. Show those things: problem solving, driving leadership. Solving a problem by identifying the root causes and proactively addressing them. Essentially doing a consulting project of any kind, or not necessarily in consulting, but in your company. Maybe you are interning somewhere or you're working somewhere, and then you identify the problem, you found the root causes, you address them, you solve the problem. Even if it was not your obligation, that's a mix of problem solving and drive. So look for trouble. I always say, like, look for trouble and go beyond. Don't only do what's on your plate and what they give to you, because this is not being top 10%. Finding a solution to a problem in a short period of time, finding alternative, a more efficient solution, solving particular challenging problems in any engineering or scientific area, if you have this background, creating models, analyzing data, showing programming skills. All of that, problem solving, intellectual caliber. Drive, getting promotions, starting your own business or a nonprofit, taking part of volunteering, raising funds, learning languages, taking extracurricular courses, participating in competitions, delivering extra miles, putting idea to action, writing a successful website, receiving awards or prizes. And leadership, leading teams, having positions of responsibility, having positions in employment, showing any evidence of managing people and organizing events. Okay, how does this look like in practice, in a bullet point? So you want to have strong verb, right, in the past, in the first, in the beginning of the bullet, and that's your work, what you did. You can use some more words to explain and give more context about the work and how difficult it was. And then the output, if you can, always try to quantify or at least estimate. Sometimes you don't know the number, but you can estimate the impact. And you can defend that. The important thing is that you can defend that prediction, that estimation in an interview if you are asked, and it's credible. Okay, so don't be afraid of like, oh, projected increase of blah, 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 40%. That's fine, as long as you can convince someone in an interview. Okay, no one will ask you proof of anything. Of course, don't lie. Never lie on your CV, because you're probably going to the most ethical professions in business of all. If you are starting to lie, then automatically this will take you, at some point, it will take you down, right? So if you have this habit, it will bring you down. Pretty certain. Like throughout the years, you're gonna make a mistake, lie, or make an ethical mistake. So start with like a very, very high standard. You're starting from your resume. Okay. Here's some bullets. Example. So created a 7-year business plan and investor marketing material. So this is the work, right? Leading to a successful 2.5 million round of financing. That's the output. And then here, there's a little bit more detail, like designed and implemented a company-wide loyalty rewards programs. That's the work for a leading Swiss retail bank with revenue exceeding 2.3. So showing that it's hard, the big client, right? Resulting in a 10% rise in product cross sales. So you can bring the impact to the beginning or to the end, no matter what. Try to bring a little bit of context and explanation, and don't be exhaustive. It's 2 lines. A bullet should be 2 lines long, should be enough for a person with minimal understanding to know what was going on here. So you'll not be able to tell the full story. We have 10 minutes, so let me just finish off my slides and then I'll take the final questions. So after the resume, you'll be invited to take some tests or play some games, some computer games. For instance, you maybe heard about McKinsey's game. And here, essentially what you are doing is you are showing your analytical skills, your way of thinking is aligned with the people who already work in the consulting firm, right? So they're trying to set a bar here for you. Is it difficult, Flavio? Well, it depends. Sometimes it's super easy. You can pass without preparation. Sometimes you need to prepare. Usually, as you saw, like the approval is 20 to 40%. On average, 30% of candidates get through the tests and games, and you just need to be better than 2/3 of people, and you might need some preparation. So brush up on your quant skills, find out what the test or game is about, brush up on your skills, and then practice a little bit with sometimes GMAT questions and example exams and so on, so that you can do your best when you're there. And finally, after the tests and games, you hopefully get an interview invitation, and that's what you show. At Hybrid, you call the 7 skills, which is your ability to crack the case, right? Show the mastery of those skills. That's what we teach at Hybrid. All right, that's it. Let's take a look at the questions. If I miss your question, please resend it so that I'll not be able to find it anymore. Bharat, I had been working as a mediator between the support team and the project managers on an IT startup, bringing them inputs that they could select for implementation. Also, sometimes working in implementations, doing documentation for new changes. Does this kind of experience help show in a consulting mindset? Yes, those stories you have to put in your CV, and you might tell in your personal fit part of the interview, where you show problem solving, you show drive and leadership. Every impactful story is a potentially good story. You just have to know how to tell them, right? So we do have to practice that because telling stories is not trivial, and your interviewer is interested in a very specific part of the story, and it's better that you are prepared. But by keywords, I mean, does heat map trace the particular words or an actual factual data? It's where the people's eyes go. So it's a eye tracking thing, not keyword. So hi Flavio, like you mentioned, the consulting people move to product management roles are preferred. The similar case and vice versa? Not really. I haven't seen a lot of product managers moving to consulting. It's more common to go to from consulting to product management. But it's not impossible, right? You just have to look. Whenever you are like in doubt about your profile, like, oh, is my profile good for this company? Go to LinkedIn. It's open data. Research, open people from the office you want to work for and see, well, do your own statistics, right? You can see if there are people from a university. You can see if there are people from a background, etc. How difficult is it for someone to go to consulting laterally as an outsider? It depends on how many years of out of school you are. So if you are many years out of school, you can get a chance by going to school again, going back and doing an MBA in a target school where consulting firms recruit from, and then you have a fresh shot, right? So if you just have work experience, just to move to consulting, unless you have a specific expertise for many years, like I'm retail, marketing, oil and gas, finance, they might be wanting an expert in that field, but it's much harder because there are so fewer positions in experts than in generalists, right? So it's much harder. But consulting is a very generic word and very, very big. Like if you want to work for any consulting firm, right? There are several boutiques in all kinds of fields, and you can become a consultant in that field. But it's best if you want to work for a big strategy consulting firm, famous brand and so on, go back to school and get a new degree. If you are out of college since like five or 7 years. Can you please share your experience when you have interacted with a client who doesn't like consultants, and what was your approach to work with that client? Well, my first project at McKinsey, like the client didn't like junior consultants. He was picking on me all the time because he wanted the team with experience. Sometimes the client doesn't agree with what consultants do, which is like hiring super young people without experience. They want to have people with 10 years of work experience at least in their fields. And that was not the case. So it was tough. was pretty tough. I was very junior. I didn't know how to deal with it. And I cannot even share best practices that I implemented because I really didn't know how to handle this. And my manager didn't either. And I had to get through. It was not pleasant. And looking back with now what I know and what we teach at Highbridge, I would have done things very much differently. I would have put it on the table for discussion for the partner, for the manager, and then like push them to talk to the client and so on to sell myself, to get my respect, right, for the project. Thank you for the question. Arush, has Great Resignations era increased clients turnovers in the industry, given that investment? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the Great Resignation hits everybody, including consulting. It was very tough to be a consultant during the pandemic because we worked a lot and remotely without seeing people and traveling and so on. So a lot of the attractive aspects of the work were not there in the pandemic. So a lot of people left. And now travel is back, everything's coming back. So it's better again, less turnover. Guys, I know there are lots of questions, but time's coming up, so it's running out. So I will take one more, and then we'll have to leave the others for the next time. How the risk assessment is done by a consultant for any client project? What are the stakes involved if a consultant is unable to deliver any milestones and deviates from the timeline? How a consultant tackles such kind of situation? Look, a good project is well scoped. The LOP or letter of proposal is well done. It's well sold. It's aligned, so it has information from the client, so that's realistic, and the targets are realistic. And when the project starts, like a good project is co-created, as I said, like the clients are together building the solutions with the people, with the consultants, and therefore the risk of something not being achieved and so on is kind of shared, right? So the consultants, they share the risk, but it happens that they don't hit all the targets. It's normal if the targets are very high and difficult, which they are, and it doesn't necessarily kill the project, and it doesn't necessarily mean the client will never return. Actually, even with not hitting the targets, consultants can bring in a lot of impact. All right, time's up. Thank you for the questions. I really like this group because it's so like participating so much and with great insights. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope to see you guys again. If you're interested in the bootcamp, applications are open. Take a look at highbridgeacademy.com, and please, you can also feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Right, so you'll find me under Flavio Soriano, and it'll be a pleasure to connect.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Flavio, for the wonderful session. We've totally loved how granular you've been, and you've taken us literally step by step, right, starting from how consulting works, the outlook required to the resume. I think the specificity of each element on your presentation was superb. So thank you so much for the fantastic session.
Thank you for the invitation.
So we'll definitely check out the Academy and follow you. And I'm sure we have a lot of other questions that we might want to take offline.
Yes, thank you so much, team, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Flavio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Flavio.